Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the latest episode of the Hard Compound Live. For those of you who don't know, my name is Rich and I run and operate the Hard Compound. We're a one-stop shop for all things motorsport, and we can be found on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. Search for the Hard Compound on any of those and come and follow us. We put out 3 articles a day in the morning, lunchtime, and in the evening here in the UK. And these are race reviews, race previews, breaking news, any new livery unveils, throwbacks, birthdays, and anything we can shake a stick at, really, and we cover the full motorsport spectrum. We also do live video interviews, such as this one. These are broadcast on our Facebook, our Twitter, and our YouTube, in the video section on Facebook, and in the live on our YouTube, where they are all automatically saved. We've done well over 100 of these with some fantastic guests, so do go and check them out, but don't do it just yet, because we have another terrific guest joining us this evening. We have 1 hour this evening because our guest has very graciously stayed in the office to do this, and we don't want to keep him too late. He's an absolute legend of the British motorsport world, particularly in the world of rallying. He is the owner of the M Sport World Rally Championship team, who are celebrating a podium in Sweden at the weekend. So without any further ado, we're going to get cracking. 1 hour. Please join me in extending a very, very warm welcome to Mr. Malcolm Wilson.
Hi.
Here we are. Malcolm, good evening. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yes, very well, very well. Firstly, thank you very much for coming back on and doing this. Obviously, we had a minor technical hitch, or a fairly major technical hitch last time. So I really appreciate you staying at HQ to have a chat with us this evening. Thank you very much.
No problem. It was probably my end of this part of the world with the internet. So I must admit, I don't know. But well, hopefully it's okay tonight.
Yes, there was obviously something in between us that wasn't quite working, but we're clear as a bell tonight. So yeah, it's all good. Let's get cracking. Just seen a comment in the comment section. We've got Mr. Mike Wilds has just asked me to say hello to you, Malcolm. So I'm sure you're familiar with Mike.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
So yes, great stuff. Guys, if you have any comments, do put them in the comment section. We'll see them in real time and we'll try and work them in. But as I said, we have got about an hour, so we need to get cracking. Firstly, Malcolm, many congratulations on the podium out in Sweden at the weekend. It was a pretty special effort, wasn't it?
It certainly was. It's something that we definitely weren't expecting. You know, the target, to be honest, was to try and get in the top 5. But I have to say, he, considering his level of experience, it's only his 3rd Swedish rally for Adrian. He did a fantastic job, particularly on Saturday when he managed to hold Elfyn at bay. And of course, on Sunday, we just decided that, let Elfyn go, get the podium. It was his first of his career. So he's got a great platform to build on, and hopefully he can just keep on improving. There's nothing like getting results like that gives the driver so much confidence that hopefully it's going to put him in a good position going for the rest of the season.
Yeah, certainly, and certainly to do it so early in the season as well. It as you say, it lays a great platform. And I believe it's Kenya next, isn't it? Something completely different.
Yeah, he's done Kenya before, so he's got reasonable experience of the event. So, and Kenya's a little bit more about, again, it's a bit more about endurance than what Sweden was. So, the key as well in Kenya, for instance, is, reliable car. And of course, that's the pressure's on us to make sure that we can give him a good, strong, reliable package for that event.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I think we'll all be keeping a close eye on that for sure. Right. I mean, as we've got quite a bit to get through, and we touched on some of it in our first effort here. But where did your love of motorsport come from, and in particular the love of rallying?
Started at a very early age. Parents had a basic car breakers yard, tyre distribution. We used to get the local rally guys coming in. I suppose I'm going back a long way now, so it would be probably late 60s, early 70s. And obviously when these cars were turned up with wide wheels and everything, I just sort of got interested. And one of them said, look, we're doing a rally tonight. Would you like to come in the back, sit in the back with us? Obviously you could do that sort of thing in those days. and which is what I did. And obviously, the first corner we came to, the guy just put the car sideways, and to be honest, that was it. That was me. That was me hooked on the sport. And so, of course, anything that I could do driving wise up until I was old enough to drive, because I was only be 10 or 12 at that point in time. So I did anything that I could do driving wise, autocross, auto tests, up until I was old enough to drive on the road. And then, of course, I started to navigate as well. So I did quite a lot of navigating, because again, you could do that even though you didn't have a driving license in those days. So I did a lot of the national events even as a navigator.
So obviously the bug bit very, very early on as a passenger and navigator, and then, as you say, you got behind the wheel yourself. Do you remember the first time you really got behind the wheel of a rally car on a stage and really opened it up? I guess when did you first start thinking I can really do this and maybe perhaps forge a career in this?
Well, I never ever thought that you would get to the position you did as a driver, because at the end of the day, it was just the pure excitement of being able to drive. But I suppose it really started for me. I got success very early in my career. I started in, was it 74, and by 73, 74, and by 75, I think it was, then there was a competition running, which was Ford Rally Man of the Month. And I think I'd already got that in like 1975 and again in 76. So then I got my first opportunity with a not a factory drive, but a factory supported drive from Ford in 1977. So, and my very first rally, I actually won the stage rally. I won the class, even though I did my usual. I rolled on the last stage of the thing, but still managed to win the class. So I suppose it was quite a short time for me to get to the point where I was getting good support to be able to go rallying.
Sure. And obviously, to get that backing, as you say, in the late 70s, and have the success that you had early on was obviously a great starting point. Something you touched on before, you beat a certain Mr. Jimmy McRae in the Castrol Autosport Series in 1978. I mean, he went on to do quite well as well, didn't he? And you two guys battling with each other, that must have been a terrific experience.
Yeah, it was a great period, and obviously even after that, even Colin and I competed against each other as well, and then of course obviously ended up running Colin in the Focus. So, and I must admit, I think Jimmy and I, we both started to rally at the same time. His second rally and my second rally as a driver was, I think it was the 1974 like autumn stages up in Scotland, and that's, to be honest, that's basically when we first met. And obviously, so starting out at the same time as well as Jimmy. So yeah, we've known each other for many years.
Yeah, and it's a lovely chap. I had the very good fortune to speak to him at the Autosport show this year, and which is, I was a little bit starstruck. And he's in good form, which is great to see. Yeah, fantastic stuff. Again, I'm going to have to sort of skip forward a bit. 1980, you had an accident that could well have brought things to a fairly shuddering halt. How close was it to being the end of the driving for you, even though you'd only started relatively recently prior to it?
I think, to be honest, if I hadn't been in a sort of a conscious state, then to be able to speak with the surgeons and everything, then I think it would have been a totally different story. But having said that, I was obviously so determined that I wanted to make sure that I could still was able to drive. And in all honesty, before, it took quite some time before I finally got a surgeon who felt that he could do the operation and which would be successful. So I think I ended up having to wait about 4 hours, seeing various different surgeons before, should we say, I let them get on and do the job that he did. So I think I was very lucky that I got such a guy that really enabled me to do the job and enabled me to carry on with my competition life. I mean, okay, about 6 or 7 years ago, I ended up having to have a complete ankle joint replacement. But in fairness, he did a tremendous job that, got me back on the road very quickly.
Yeah, excellent. And you were back on the road certainly through the 80s when I can remember watching you and all your competitors at that time, and you got behind the wheel of some terrific machinery in that era. The ones that I remember is like the RS200, the Ford RS200 had the Audi Quattro and the 6R4 with the 3, aside from the Escort, which we'll come to. What were those cars like to drive? I guess they were all different animals in their own way.
Yeah, they're all different. I mean, at the end of the day, in my book, there's still only one car, and that is, the Mark II Escort 2-litre BDA. I mean, that was just such an incredible car to drive and so much fun. And then, then there was the 4-wheel drive Quattro, which obviously changed the face of rallying. And then, of course, the Group B era, which was, I have to say, was of all the fan surveys that's still done today, it's still regarded as the greatest era of rally. And in fairness, the cars were, I think it's fair to say, the majority of them, they were beasts, to be honest. They had all that amount of 500, 600 horsepower, a lot of them. But they didn't have the sophistication of technology that we've got today in terms of transmission and suspension, etc. So, you took tremendous satisfaction from being able to drive them and master them. I wouldn't say, I mean, the cars that that I drove, the Metro and the RS200. Sadly, they weren't at the forefront like the Peugeot and the Lancia. But having said that, the development side got cut short, obviously, sadly due to the accident with Henry in Corsica in '86. But they were, it was a great. It was when the sport was probably at the highest profile that it's ever been.
I'm kind of glad you said that, because obviously I was quite young at the time, and I always look back through rose-tinted specs thinking, was it really as good as I remember it? So it obviously clearly was, for you guys who were competing at the time. Just to fast forward a little bit again due to time. One thing I do remember, you had in the Thousand Lakes Rally. I believe that was in the 6R4, and I can remember being quite upset because the British guy had crashed, and I soon got over it. But what a lot of people remember you most for is getting on board with the Ford World Rally Team in the early '90s, and obviously it's gone I would say stratospheric in the last 30 odd years. How did it first come about that you got involved with Ford on the world stage as opposed to the more domestic stage?
I think back to your touching back to '86 Rally Thousand Lakes. Yeah, I remember the accident well. It was actually the same place as where Marco Allen crashed as well. And obviously, the spectators helped us roll the car back onto its wheels.
Yeah.
But why I wanted to bring it back up again was, I can't believe it, but we had our local motor club awards here about 2 weeks ago, and this guy came in and he had the spoiler and the spoiler mounting off the Metro from the 1986 Rally Finland. He'd actually been there watching on the rally and got the front spoilers, so he actually brought it to ask me if I would sign it. And you think, gosh, that was 1986, wow. And it still had the muck, the dirt, and everything on from and the damage from when he got it. So,
wow, that's absolutely as it should be. You don't need to clean things up and make it look shiny. It needs to be as is. That's fantastic.
So yeah, just to remind me that I had another accident. So.
And I brought it up again. Apologies.
But back to the question. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say, okay, obviously my driving was one thing, but I started the business, Malcolm Wilson Motorsport, back in 1979. So I've always had a keen interest in business as well, even though I was driving. And of course, lots of people told me at the time, look, Malcolm, you can't do both jobs. You can't run a business and drive. And of course, when you're 30-year-old, you think you can take on the world. And in fairness, probably a lot of these people that were giving me that advice were right in what they were saying, because I've certainly seen since I took on running the team that the amount of commitment and dedication that the top guys do to be able to achieve what they do, the likes of, the Ogiers and the Lobes, then it became very clear to me once I was doing this job that these people that were advising were probably correct. But having said that, I wouldn't swap it for anything. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in this position now of doing what I'm doing. And I have to tell you, I've got far more satisfaction from running the team than anything I ever did as a driver. Really? But how did it come about? Well, obviously, I decided I've always had, set myself goals, and I'd always said I would retire from driving when I was 40. But I actually stopped at the end of, I think it was 95, so I was 39. But from sort of 93 to 95, we were running a lot of the escort programs for Ford in the national sales companies. So like, for instance, Ford Greece, Ford Portugal, Middle East Championship with Mohammed bin Sulayem. Obviously, I was doing the British Rally Championship. So I think we won like 11 championships in 3 years, sort of regional championships. And then we'd also tackled a few world championship events. And during 1996, we went to Rally Finland with two Finnish guys, Harri Rovanperä, Kalli's dad, and a guy called Jarmo Kaitaletto, and we finished on the podium, finished third overall, and Carlos was, I think, sixth, and Bruno Thierry was 8th or 10th. And we'd already been having discussions with Ford in the early part of the season about me taking on the team, but a lot of the people, the senior management, felt it wouldn't be possible to run a world championship team from Cumbria. And then, of course, we went and got that result. And then I think that made the people think that, well, maybe it was possible. And literally, I think it was the week before RAC Rally, it was announced that we would be awarded the contract to run the World Rally Championship team from 1997 onwards. Wow. So at that point in time, we had 18 staff, which was nothing like anything what you needed to go to Monte Carlo. We went to Monte Carlo actually with, I think in total number of people we went with, including, gravel crews and everything, it was 106 people, I think. So like any business, we had obviously some growing pains, but an incredible amount of work to do, because it was also the first event with the Escort Cosworth World Rally Car. So it's fair to say during 1996 and over the Christmas, New Year, there was no Christmas or New Year for the guys at M Sport that year, to be honest. It was it was an incredibly difficult time, but obviously it was very, very rewarding, because on the first event we finished second to Tommy Mäkinen with Carlos on Monte Carlo, and then finished second in Sweden as well. So we had a great start to the campaign of running the Ford team.
Absolutely. Wow. That's amazing with the numbers, or lack thereof, where you started out and where you've come to in the present day. Now, you mentioned about Cumbria and the start and stuff. I want to come to that very quickly, just towards the end. One thing I do have to mention is there's a chap watching by the name of Oliver Taylor, and he is a motorsport artist and upcycler of motorsport parts into various bits and pieces. He's a huge fan of yours, and I think he sent you some photos, some artwork when he was very young. And he said that he's about to put his eyes through the task of painting the mighty Michelin Escort for the first time since you drove it. So that's definitely something to artist, and I might put him in touch with your team. That car is the one that everyone remembers you driving, I think, and you won the British Rally Championship in it. Just to step back in time, just for a brief period. what were your memories of that car? Because I loved it when I was young, and seemingly everyone else loved it as well. Was it as good to drive as it looked?
Yeah, again, it's another, sadly, it's, that car should have won the World Championship with Francois Delacour in probably, was it 94, I think, probably. I think he had more wins than anybody else, but then sadly he suffered a road accident in a Ferrari road car and broke his ankles. So there's no question it was a great package, and obviously it was a great car for me in the British Championship as well. And obviously a lot of our customers, as I touched on, we won like 11 championships, and they were all with Escort Cosworth Group A cars. So it was a great package. And of course, you're right. I mean, the livery on the pilot car, of all the liveries I think that I've ever had in my career, it's definitely my favorite livery, and it's certainly the car and the model cars that I sign the most of. I mean, it's incredible. Even what is it, 30 years ago now since we were competing with it, and yet the amount of them that get brought to rallies for people wanting autographs on them still, it's honestly, it's remarkable considering it's 30 years ago since we were driving it.
Yeah, it just goes to show the mark that it left on everyone. When they were watching it on the world and the British stage. I've just seen that Oliver has just commented. The chap I mentioned it, and he says that he does indeed still have the letter that you sent to him many years ago, and he actually took a photo of it and he sent it to me. And he says he's a proper fan of yours. So yeah, thank you for tuning in, Oliver. So good stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Oliver.
Yeah, top man. Just one more thing before we get on to moving on to the team ownership side of things. You mentioned the now president of the FIA. You competed against him and with him, Mr. Bin Sulayem. Just thinking on my feet here, did you see anything in him that led you to believe that he might go into the political side of things, or certainly get to where he's got to?
Being perfectly honest, no. He was a great character, and obviously he was a good driver as well. Hence why he was one of the most successful Middle East drivers. I think we won 7 championships with him. So, and spent obviously a lot of time with him, but never envisaged that he would get involved on the level that he's involved in now. Because obviously, once he sort of stopped competing, he was involved with the Dubai ASN and the rallies in Dubai, etc. So I mean, it's positive news for us in the sense that obviously we've got very strong links and connections with him. So but no, in all honesty, didn't see that coming.
No, sure. Well, full of surprises, clearly. Obviously, just moving in, we touched on you setting up or taking over the Ford World Rally team at the time, and it was on a relative shoestring, as you touched on. One of my favourite drivers at the time was Juha Kankkunen, and you ran him fairly early in your time with Ford. I was just wondering what he was like to work with, because he was a pretty spectacular on the stages, wasn't he?
Yeah, the Juha situation came about during our first year. We had some why he joined was we had some commercial issues, sadly, with Armin Schwartz. So then it meant we were looking for a replacement, and I've been speaking with Juha for some time. He wasn't really driving at the time, and so then he came back and joined us. I think it was for Argentina, where he was doing a really good job. And then we had some mechanical issue. Then the second event was Greece. And to be honest, he did an amazing job. He was leading the rally. We even had to implement team orders so that Carlos could win the event, because obviously he was the one that we were really going for the drivers' championship. So it was certainly something unexpected early on in my career as a team principal, that you'd have to, deploy team orders on very early on in my career in my role in that position. So
Sure.
it was, in one sense, it was incredible to be in that position, to be lying first and second on the Acropolis, which was always one of my favorite events, because it's about, having a good car, strong car, keeping your car in good shape. So it was a great moment, but obviously it was also a very difficult moment as well, to tell the UR to slow down. And sadly, I had to do it again later on in the season in Indonesia again. So, but on the other hand, we were right in with the championship shout right until to the end of the season. And unfortunately, I think we had an engine failure in Australia. Otherwise, we could probably have been world champion in our first year. As it was, Carlos finished second in the drivers' championship. In any case,
yeah. And that would have been a heck of a story, but obviously wasn't quite meant to be. But just, I mean, you touched on the Acropolis Rally. When Carlos won, you had 1-2 on the Acropolis. I actually found some footage of you all celebrating shortly afterwards, winning that rally. It looked like there was a bit of relief in there. I guess maybe that was down to having to tell you how to slow down and things like that. That must have been a pretty special moment, though, taking a 1-2 in Greece.
Yeah, and of course it was our first WRC win as well, as as M Sport running the team. So a special moment, and yes, sadly we don't have after parties, not like we used to. Rallying in that sense is somewhat different. We obviously, everybody goes home as soon as possible after the rally, but in those days, we always used to have a sort of a party afterwards, especially if you had success.
Yeah, absolutely. Terrific stuff. Just to fast forward, when the Ford Focus came in, the Escort was no more. When did you find out that the Escort was being discontinued, both on the road and in rallying? And was it much of a change to the Focus?
Yeah, I mean, it had been known for quite some time that the Escort they were going to disband the Escort and move to the Focus. I mean, we actually started work on the Focus during 1997, because obviously it was a complete new car. It was a completely different concept of car. I mean, obviously the Escort Cosworth was based originally on a rear-wheel drive sort of platform, whereas the Focus was front-wheel drive. So it was a completely different concept of vehicle. So we were started, as I say, in 97, did all the sort of first build and everything, doing 98 and the testing. So it was another very intense period of, design and development. We'd never done a complete car from scratch before, and we didn't really have the resource and the facility up here. So we actually rented a facility down at Millbrook Proving Ground for a couple of years, because we'd also in the process of buying and converting Dovenby here. So we didn't have the room at my current place. So hence why we did that. Plus it helped obviously locate engineers and designers in that part of the world while we were doing the Focus. But of course, on only its third event, the Safari Rally, we won what was then, without question, the world's toughest rally, which was, I have to say, that was an incredible moment, because on the penultimate day, I was there when I remember Carlos saying to Uwe Anderson, when is that bloody Focus going to break? It's not possible to bring a new car to Safari Rally and win. But I think that's when, that's where Colin was absolutely exceptional, for all his flamboyant style and everything that Colin had. In all honesty, of all the drivers, you might, from the outside, you don't want to think it's not the case, but he had the most incredible mechanical understanding and mechanical sympathy when it come to difficult events like Kenya. And if you look at his track record, I mean, certainly he won all the difficult events with those, the hardest rallies in the World Championship, the Safari, the Argentina, Acropolis, Cyprus. That's where he was very, very strong, because he had this incredible understanding of what sort of mechanical punishment a car could take. Okay, he had spectacular accidents, but a lot of them tended to be on faster rallies, smoother rallies. But certainly the difficult rallies that's where Colin was outstanding, to be honest.
I remember seeing that. I can remember quite well. He fixed, I forget what it was, something was around the manifold. I can't remember what it was in the engine, and he'd fixed it with like some wire, and it just sort of cobbled it all together with the engine roasting hot. And I think I saw some footage of you in an interview saying that you still don't know how he managed to do it.
Well, first of all, we used to have sort of competitions in the workshop with all the best technicians and who could change a clutch quickest and all this sort of thing. And honestly, I'm not joking, but most of the time, Colin could beat all the best technicians to do any sort of mechanical job on the car.
Wow.
But one of the outstanding jobs that he did, you're right, was in New Zealand, where all the wastegate broke away from the exhaust manifold. And I mean, I just still to this day, I don't know how he managed to do it, but he used the stainless steel lock wire that was in the toolkit, and he managed to lock wire the wastegate back in place. I mean, he did an incredible job. And then, because I mean, we'd actually seen, or he told us what had happened, and we were all in the service back. Well, that's game over, because the hot exhaust gas is straight out into all under the bonnet. But as I say, he lock wired the thing in place. Not only did he do that, but he went on to the next stage before service and did second fastest time. So just shows what mechanical skills he had as well as driving skills.
That's incredible. It's incredible. And I've had a lot of messages asking about a lot of drivers that you've worked with, and a lot of them were about Colin. And it was, for those of us from the outside looking in, it was obviously terribly sad when we lost him in the manner that we did. I guess you, having worked with him, that must have been 100 times more difficult than it would be for us watching in.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody knows it's tragic. We lost one of the best drivers in the world, and obviously one of the best characters. And it had a big impact on a lot of people that worked here, because that's the one thing that Colin was very good at, was getting the people, everybody in the team, to work for him. So yeah, it's a real tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to touch on another driver that you ran. I think it was in 2000 alongside Colin and Carlos. Was Petter Solberg. And hey, Petter's come on here for a chat last year. Mr. Hollywood, a great character. I've never seen anyone so excited about motorsport than him. He must have been either brilliant to work with or a nightmare, or somewhere in between. What was he like to work with?
I will tell you, he was both. Yeah, the Norwegian disco dancing champion. Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was a nightmare and he was brilliant. But no, I mean, his enthusiasm and his love of the sport. Well, you can still see it in him today.
Yeah.
And what it means to him, the passion. And I'm sure, the way that Oliver's driving as well, I'm sure it's not going to be too long until we see another Solberg with a world championship title, to be honest. So
yeah, absolutely.
No, it's great to see. And obviously we got Petter at a very early age. So where he lived with us for quite some time as well. So
okay.
Yeah, it's probably, I'm not the right person to ask. You should be asking my wife what he was really like. Petter, pick your shoes up. Petter, why have you left that lying in the middle of the floor, etc., etc. He was, yeah.
I'm not fully surprised. Hopefully he won't see this. That's right. And another guy that was around at the time, I have to ask you about him because he's from my home town here in Reading, was Richard Burns, and we all know he was lost in just as tragic circumstances as we lost Colin, if not more so. Did you have any dealings with Richard at all?
No, Richard's one of the few guys that never really, never drove for us, for one thing. Obviously, him and I were competing against each other, but to be honest, only for around one season. I think was it 93, my first year in the pilot car, I think it was, when he, yeah, I'm right in saying he went on, he won the championship, didn't he, in 93, I think. Yeah, so
I think he did, yeah.
So no, we didn't really, because as I say, never really drove one of my cars. So yeah, competed against him for 12 months. But I mean, yeah, I mean, that was a real tragedy because obviously Martin was with him at the time when he took ill as well. So yeah, very, very tragic.
Yeah, very sad. You mentioned Marco Martin. He had 3 wins for you in 2004. Just give the outside looking in, 2000, 2005, they felt like nearly years. They were very, very strong, but there was always someone around who just happened to pip you. Must have been very frustrating.
Yeah, 2003, 2004 were really strong. Obviously, Marco
Yeah.
back-to-back victory in Catalonia and Corsica, and obviously winning Finland. So that was an incredible moment for me because that's the rally that every driver wants to win. And then obviously we never managed to do it as a driver. So to win it as a team principal was just an incredible occasion, and the amount of fans and people, even the Prime Minister came to the finish of the rally in Finland. So that was an incredible moment. But in 2005, it was deliberate that we did not invest in top drivers, because at that point in time, we were investing all the money in designing and developing the new Focus for 2006. So even though we had some strong results with Tony Geidermeister and Roman, but to be honest, the whole emphasis, all our resource and effort really during that period was going into doing the new car. But obviously I wanted to continue still in World Championship in 2005, because you always, if you stop, I believe you always miss something, and it's harder, takes longer. And I wanted to come back in 2006 with what we felt would be a car that was capable of winning, and obviously a strong driver lineup to go with it. I think the thing that we did see in 2005 was we saw the potential of Mikko Hirvonen.
Yeah.
So, that in itself was very valuable that we continued. And hence why then I put Mikko in the team in 2006, because I felt he would be a very good partner to Marcus Grönholm.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was planned in that way. So.
Okay. Yeah, great stuff. Love that. You mentioned 2006. So close. I remember with Marcus Grönholm. I think was it 5th in Australia, and if it had been 4th, he'd have been world champion. I mean, Marcus was a terrific racer to watch. That must have been a very tough year. Obviously, Mikko took his first rally win at the end there, but he just missed out on the World Drivers' Championship, Marcus, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, we couldn't. I mean, we were actually watching it on a big screen in the service park, to be honest, and it was surreal. You just thought, well, it's. I don't know. You just had this feeling it's not happening so early on in the rally that, Marcus made that mistake, which, as you say, cost us the Drivers' Championship. But having said that, it was obviously difficult for him, but it was our first world title for manufacturers, and it was Ford's first for 27 years. So
yeah,
it was an incredible moment for us to think that we designed and developed and built this Focus that then took us to the World Manufacturers World Championship. And obviously the combination of Marcus and Mikko worked really, really, really well, and obviously hence also for the next year as well.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know whether you're aware or not, but Mikko is still the most successful driver in a Ford in World Rallies. He's got more wins than anybody else has ever had in a Ford car at World Championship level.
Wow. No, I didn't realise that. I think that would surprise many, and not, nothing against Mikko, obviously, but yeah, that's one of those that kind of flies under the radar, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Obviously 2007, you got the manufacturer's title. One thing I did see there, you had a certain Valentino Rossi came in and did a rally with you. We all know how good he is on 2 wheels. How did he match up with everyone on 4 wheels and off-road?
Well, he did quite a few Rally Monzas with us, not just one, and I think he won it with us. maybe two out of the 4 or 5 times that he did it, I think. But in all honesty, that came about through John Steele, who was just retired, who used to work for me he worked for me for 38 years. So that was because John was massively into MotoGP.
Yeah.
It was John who sort of looked after him and did the deal with Valentino. And to be honest, I always used to leave it to him because John always stayed at home. He never ever used to go on the events. But so Rally Monza and Valentino, that was his baby. Okay, I remember he did RAC Rally for us once in the Stobbart Focus. So I got to know him a little bit better then. So, but no, I mean he was a great character. Certainly, he had the right approach. He was very relaxed when he was, he was not stressed about anything on the rally side. He was super relaxed, and I think obviously a lot of that experience came from what he was doing on MotoGP.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's one of those guys, he just seems to do well in everything he races. Obviously, he's in the GT World Challenge now, and he's just come back from Bathurst. And yeah, he's just very, very, very good, isn't he? Right, just with time, I need to skip forward just a little bit, a decade actually. There's a terrific bit of video that I think a lot of people will have seen of you announcing Seb Ogier driving for the team in 2018. That was obviously planned, but it's absolutely brilliant. And your reaction to the announcement and everything else like that was a side of motorsport we all love to see. If you haven't seen it, folks, just YouTube it. It's brilliant. Obviously, you were pretty determined to get him in because we all know how good he is. How did it come about? Very quickly.
Very quickly. It was literally, obviously, we'd always talked about him driving for us, same as we did with Sebastian Loeb, to be honest. But and
he
then
tested, didn't he, before?
Sebastian Loeb tested for us in 2004, I think it was. Yeah, 2004. And then the Sebastian thing came about. I mean, even when it was after the Rally GB, I think, well, he'd won the championship. And then was it 2 days after the event, Volkswagen announced they were withdrawing. So I immediately seized the opportunity to get in contact with him. And I think he then still had Australia Rally to do. So we agreed that basically I said to him, look, for sure we'd love you to drive, but on the other hand, there's no point. You need to test our car, first of all, before you make the decision. Because I don't want you to come if you're not happy with the car. So then shortly after, Australia came straight here, tested the car in Wales, and then I think he also tested some of the other cars. And then we opened discussions, and the rest is history. I suppose the deal was done for 2017 only to start with. And yeah, I mean, it was a fairy tale year for us, to be honest.
Yeah, it was. Excuse me. It was an unreal year, and obviously, the lineup you had. You had Mr. Evans in as well, and I guess you knew that you had a big opportunity to be, to get your first World Drivers' Championship that year. Obviously, with Seb in, with the car being certainly up to his standards and very high standards. And he went in, he won in Monaco and Mexico and France and Rally GB. I mean, could you just give us a couple of your memories of that season? Because it must have gone pretty much as well as you could have hoped, perhaps.
I mean, amazing. To be honest, after the even during the shakedown in Monte Carlo, I mean, he just did this most amazing time on shakedown, and I can't tell you what that did for my confidence, for the fact that how good the car was, how good he was, and I just felt. And then obviously went and won Monte Carlo, and as I said, the rest is just history. But I think people have probably heard, but most the best time ever in my life was Rally GB that year, when first of all Elfyn crossed the line, won the rally, then I crossed the line, we won the Manufacturers Championship, and then Seb crosses the line and we win the Drivers and the Co-Drivers Championship. So within that 17-minute window, you achieve everything that you've ever dreamed of achieving, and especially on your home rally with one World Championship event still to go in Australia.
That's fun. I mean, it's if you could have written it at the start of the season, that's how you would have done it. 17 minutes where it all just falls into place. But absolutely fantastic, absolutely brilliant, and obviously many.
And obviously, Elfyn winning his first World Championship event as well on top of it. So it was an incredible weekend.
Just absolutely perfect, and and you said that you don't have the parties that you used to. I'm sure there were some celebrations come the end of the season, though. There must have been.
Yeah, not like the old days.
Yeah, sure. But party enough. Wonderful. Okay, let's just sort of skip on. What I'm going to do very quickly, I'm going to take a few questions just from the comment section, then I'm going to run through a couple of little general bits before we wind down, if I may. Firstly, I need to say hello to where are we? Indira Flack, who I know you know very well from the Great British Racing Drivers photography book. She's tuned in, so thank you, Indira, for tuning in. Fantastic photographer who's and I believe there's a photo of you that's been blown up and put in your.
Gosh, I'm not happy she's watching because I'm wearing the same clothes as that I was when she photographed me.
Wonderful. Well, they've been washed. It's fine. It's all good. Okay, very, very quickly, let's skip through here. Someone did say, do you prefer being a team owner or a driver? I think you touched on it earlier. You've had more satisfaction as a team owner.
Yeah, that's 100%. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a fantastic time from my driving wise as well, but there's nothing compares to the satisfaction of like what I've just talked about at the end of that Rally GB in 2017.
Yeah, fantastic. A question from Dave Cox earlier. Evening, Dave. He said, this is a good one. If Group B wasn't banned, what were the 1987 plans? Were you staying with ARM or moving teams? Good question.
I actually had a 3-year contract with Austin Rover.
Okay.
So for sure I would have been staying where I was. And then, of course, to be honest, Austin Rover wanted to retain me even in 1987 when the cars had been banned, because obviously they needed to offload all the metros. So hence why I started to do some of the national events, etc., to promote the car, to try and so that Austin Rover could then sell off all the metros that they had.
Okay, gotcha. Question there from Diffan Evans. Hello, Diffan. It says, with Ford producing the Fiesta, will you start building the Puma Rally 2? That's an interesting one.
Well, it's something we're looking at the moment. Obviously, the one negative thing is that the Puma is obviously quite a bit bigger in volume than the Fiesta, and the current Rally 2 categories is based on the B car segment. So we are working with the FIA at the moment to find a way to get an equivalence of performance with a B sector car. We have got enough Fiesta body shells between M Sport UK and M Sport Poland to keep us going for the next 2 years, because obviously we've got a very successful car in Rally 2, and obviously the Rally 3 category is now being really successful. So we ended up buying 500 body shells. So as I say, we've got enough volume to keep us going for the next 2 years, but for sure we will look towards Puma to looking at Rally 2 and Rally 3.
Okay, super, thank you. Question from the same chap. It says, what do you think about the prospect of the WRC maybe going to Ireland and talks of the championship going to Scotland? We'd love to see that.
Well, I would just welcome any WRC event back onto these shores, whether it's Ireland or Scotland. to be honest, it'd just be brilliant to get it back. There'd be tremendous support having it in Ireland. There'd be great roads as well, where they're talking about. Obviously, personally, I would obviously love to see it in Scotland. I think there's some great basis for it, and there's some fantastic stages up in that part of the world. Scottish Rally was always one of my favourites as a driver. So, but just the chance to get a WRC event back here or in Ireland would be great news for the fans and for the sport.
Yeah, definitely. We would love to see it somewhere on these Fair Isles of ours. Question from David Reese Evans. He said, would you consider signing Oliver Solberg and Max McRae in the future? The next generation of crazies.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest. We've been in discussion with both of them. We're in discussion with Oliver even for this season.
Okay.
But obviously, and then, yeah, we've been in discussion with things about Max as well. So all I would say is watch this space.
Ooh, interesting. We certainly will. Thank you. Again, another question from Difan Wynne Evans. He has said, oh, hang on, it's not gonna. There we go. How proud were you of the team when they got Ott Tanak's car repaired after he rolled his Fiesta into a pond/river a few years ago? When the Fiesta sunk, it looked like it was rally over.
Yeah, it wasn't a pond; it was a lake, I think.
It was a lake, yeah, it was a very, very big pond.
It was a big pond, yeah. No, I mean, to be honest, all the guys thought I was completely crazy. But when I said, "Look, I think we can fix this," because of course, being involved what I'd been in with the car breakers yard. I mean, I remember many years ago there was massive floods in this part of the world, and there was lots of cars that we got as insurance water damaged cars, and so I knew what a lot of these cars had gone through, and we even repaired a lot of them. So I suppose the one thing I didn't know was that he'd actually knocked a part of the sump off, so the engine had actually filled up with water as well. And of course, when I said, "Look, we can still do it. We can just flush it out." As I say, I think the guys thought I was crazy, but in fairness, the guys set to, and they did a great job. And I think it didn't work out so well the next day. But the important thing for me, why I really wanted to push for it, was because I felt it was so important to get Ott back out in the car after what could have been a complete disaster. So the main driving thing for me was, as I said, I wanted to get Ott back in the car as soon as possible. And because bodily the car wasn't damaged that bad. Suspension, as I say, some damage to the engine parts, but bodily it wasn't so bad. So as I say, then the boys did a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a terrific effort. Okay, one more question from comments here. Jane Day. Now, this is written in Welsh. I can't pronounce this. Are you going to the rally in Aberystwyth this year?
Come on, you've got to say the name of the rally before I'll answer the question.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, is it Ceredigion? Is it
something like that? Put it this way, I couldn't pronounce it last year either. I was frightened that I was going to get asked the question when I went onto the press conference before the event. Yes, we will be at Rally Ceredigion this year.
Super. See, hopefully one of us has got that pronunciation right. Nice attempt, says Mark Nichols. Yes, thank you. Good try. Right, very quickly, we're running down. We've got about 5 or 6 minutes to go. Just very quickly, one thing I wanted to touch on. You received the OBE in 2009. That must have been one heck of an honour. Did you have any inkling that it was coming?
I had absolutely no idea.
Wow.
Honestly, I mean, the envelope arrived at home, and I think my wife knew she probably had some idea, but she rang me and basically said, look, there's a recorded letter here for you. What have you been doing? I said, why? She says, well, because it's got on the top Her Majesty's service. So she said, what have you been doing? Have you been speeding again, or what have you been up to? And obviously I had no idea, but then she brought it into she actually brought it into work with her friend, and basically sort of put it on my desk and said, here, come on then, you're going to open it while we're here. What have you been up to? And then, of course, I mean, I have to say it was the biggest, probably one of the biggest shocks I've ever had, to be honest.
Sure. I'm sure. Wow. And well, it's thoroughly deserved, because what you've done, for motorsport, and certainly the world of rallying, I think it speaks for itself. And certainly how you've grown M Sport into what it is now. And something that I know is very important to you was keeping it local, keeping it based in Cumbria, because there was talk of you need to move somewhere a bit nearer to everywhere else and things like that. But you were determined to keep it there, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I was told when I was driving, look, Malcolm, you need to move. You need to move south. You need to be nearer the, London, etc., for your driving side. And to be honest, I could never understand it, and I was just so determined that I would stay where I was. And then, of course, started the business, and again the same thing. I just okay, there's no question. We're takes us probably an hour longer to get to an airport than if you're at Banbury or something like that. But at the end of the day, I just could never leave this part of the world. I was born in Cockermouth. I've lived in this part of the world all my life, and I would never move anywhere else. So, and I, of course, as I say, when you're in your 30s and whatever, you feel you can do everything. So you don't let roadblocks get in the way. And I was just so determined that I could do the business from here as well.
I think that's absolutely brilliant. I love that. Stick where the roots are. Obviously, you've done bits with Bentley and Jaguar and the GT things. We haven't got time to go into that, unfortunately. Okay, I've got one more question. Okay, Difan is a fountain of questions. Okay, very quickly. There's last couple of questions from him. How much improvement have gone into the TOCA engine cars for the BTCC this year? And if you hadn't got the deal to supply the engines for the championship, would you consider entering a couple of cars? That is a good question.
There's not a lot of development gone in, to be honest. There are some, for sure. We made some improvements, but I mean, the TOCA, the body that people I'm sure are aware who run the series, very strictly control the torque, the power curve. So there's not a lot of point in doing a lot of development, to be honest. The main thing is obviously try and make the thing as more reliable. But I have to say, hopefully we've made some small improvements. But for sure, I mean, if the engines start to win, then the TOCA will definitely take steps to make sure that what they believe is the same level of performance for all the teams.
Sure.
Touring cars, we probably wouldn't been involved, even though we were involved in the GT racing.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think we would definitely be more interested in getting back, because we had a fantastic contract with Bentley doing GT. And
yes,
I have to say, the thing that really appeals to me about GT racing is very similar in one sense to rallying, the endurance side of it. And that's the part that, really enjoyed, because, the 12 hours, the 24-hour races, every single team member, it's very much, for me, like the old days of rallying, where every team member plays just a vital part. You can have all the best engineers, but if the technician drops a wheel nut, you can cost you a race. So
yeah,
that was a great part of the GT racing. And obviously, again, got great memories of, in that last season when we won Bathurst was another very, very special moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think GT racing is having a bit of a resurgence as well, which is great to see. It's sort of making its way back up. in people's consciousnesses. Quick question, quick comment here from Defan Evans. He said he's like, sorry for the questions. Never apologise for the questions. Thank you for them. Indira said that she came to visit the M Sport facility. Said it's absolutely fantastic, and the test track and everything that you've got there. Did you ever think it was going to get as big as it has when you set it up?
No, I mean, honestly, now, I mean, I feel, as I said, when you, whatever age you are, you just think you're going to carry on forever. But now I turned the grand old age of 68 at the weekend, and then you just, in one sense, I've created a monster for myself. Because we've got just over 200 employees here. We've got 80 plus in Poland.
Wow.
So, but having said that, I wouldn't swap it. And obviously, we've done some restructuring because obviously I can't carry on forever. So, we've brought quite a few of the young guys now onto the board. So, hopefully, Matthew and the younger guys can keep driving the company forward. And obviously, there's a great platform here. I mean, I think we've nearly got everything that you need now with the test track and everything on site. We've got an incredible facility, to be honest.
Yeah, fantastic. I've seen pictures of it, and it does look absolutely superb. And of course, a big happy birthday for the weekend, of course. Okay, right. This is another couple of bits from me. This feels like a bit of a daft question, but what's the best car that you've been involved with, whether it be racing or as a team owner or with partnerships or anything? Is there a car that sticks out in your mind as being the best one?
From a driving point of view, as I said, as I touched on earlier, the Mark II Escort, for me, it was just an incredible car. That you could, everything about it. For me, the engine was music, and what you could do with the car, the balance of the car was just incredible. I think the car that certainly, I believe, is the best car that we have ever designed and built was the 2017 Fiesta. You've got to remember we had 3 different drivers winning that car in 2017. So I think that tells you how good the car was. With Seb winning, Oit winning his first rally, and Elvin winning his first rally. Yeah. So that's the car that I'm the most proud of that the guys did here. They did an incredible job designing and developing that car.
Yeah, I think from the outside looking in, I think I certainly agree. It was a fantastic car. One little silly thing here. People might not know what I'm talking about here, but back in the 90s, there was a TV show called You Bet. And you went on it, and I think you were racing someone down a hill, weren't you? I can't remember. Was it a Ghana bike or something? He was doing something, wasn't he?
I remember. I think it was Rob Warner, and I think he was the champion mountain biker.
Yeah. I loved You Bet when I was younger. Do you still have your medal or your trophy? Have you still got it?
I haven't a clue. I'm not allowed to have any of my trophies in the house. The house is a trophy-free zone.
Right. Fair enough.
It will be there somewhere in a box. But yeah, all the trophies are here that the team have won, but all my trophies are all sadly boxed away.
Yeah, they'll be somewhere. Of all the trophies, and I bring that one up. Goodness me. Okay, this is the final question, and it's always an impossible one. I ask it to everyone. You've worked with and against some amazing drivers. I'm just going to name a few. You've got like Pentia, Ricola, Gwyndaf Evans, Francois Delacour, Stig Blomqvist, Mickey Biazion, Didier Auriol, you've got Kankan and Elaine Sainz, Craig Breen, the late Craig Breen, Alvin Evans, Jan Mathieu Latvala, Oit Tanak, Ogier Lowe, the McRaes. I mean, so many amazing people that you've worked with. Is there any that stick out as being particularly special for any reason?
Well, my boyhood hero, should we say, or while I was driving, was Walter Roll.
Oh, yes.
Obviously, never worked with him, or obviously competing against him on maybe some events. But for me, he was like the very first computer. You programmed him to go and win Monte Carlo, and he went and did it. So that he was my hero from a driving point of view. But driver-wise, since we've been running the team, I mean, we've had all the great names at some point, should we say, driving for us. And they're all different, every single one. And I love working with the young guys because, again, it's great to see them develop and evolve and mature. But, you know, without question, the best combination that I've had working for me is Sébastien Ogier and Julien Engracia as a team.
Wow.
The level of commitment, dedication was just something that I haven't seen in the same way that I saw with those two, in the combination of them. Other fantastic guys. I mean, they're all great. You know, Marcus Grönholm, Carlos Sainz, Colin, all these guys, fantastic to work with, and they've all got different characteristics, different strengths and weaknesses. But for me, Seb and Julien was the complete package. And I think if I'd spent more time with Sébastien Loeb, then I think I would be saying the same about him. You know, what he did for us in Monte Carlo was just amazing. It made me realise, to be honest, why we lost 9 consecutive championships to him. And most of those times we finished runner-up. So, but having worked with him on one or two rallies that he did with us, then now I understand why we weren't possible to win the championships against him.
Well, I mean, I think, and given the company that he's been keeping, that's quite the accolade for those two. Well, I mean, we've run over slightly, but thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in, for the questions and the comments and everything. And just before we go, Mark, I just want to say that, I mean, without you and what you've done with Ford and M Sport and everything else, I don't think the world rally scene would be anywhere near where it is now. So thank you very much for everything that you've done from us, the fans, for everything you've done for rallying over the last 35 plus years, and thank you for everything that you continue to do. It's been fantastic following you, and thank you very much for coming on this evening.
Well, thank you very much. I've enjoyed it very much, and I just see Oliver Taylor's just mentioned best TV show was the Mobile Challenge.
I've just seen it.
Thank you very much, because I did win that, the last one that was run. So it was that was a fantastic event, I have to say, Oliver. So thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, thanks, Oliver. That was great. Yeah, great program. So yes, thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate your support as always. And of course, huge thanks to you, Malcolm. And I appreciate you staying in the office and for coming on and doing this. Thank you very much indeed. It's been great speaking with you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Great stuff. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you soon.